Nestled in a quiet valley of the Azone Mountains lived a young girl named Elena, who shared a modest home with her father, Artha. Though their life was simple, it was filled with love and the gentle rhythm of nature. Elena had a rare gift. Her hands could bring life to fabric. With bright, colorful threads, she embroidered forests, rivers, and fields so vivid that anyone who looked upon them could almost feel the breeze or hear the chirping of birds. For Elena, embroidery was not a craft for wealth or fame. Each stitch was her way of speaking to nature, of weaving her emotions into something that would never fade. One misty morning, as she sat beneath a great oak tree sowing a field of wildflowers, a soft glow appeared between the trees. From within the shimmer of light emerged a fairy, her wings glimmering like spun glass. The fairy gazed at the embroidery and smiled gently. "Elena," she said, "your heart is pure, and your art is born from kindness. I shall bless you with 2 gifts. First, your embroideries will become known across the world. Second, anything you embroider with true feeling may come to life, if you speak the words, Threadlight. Weave the world bright." Elena gasped, hardly believing her ears, but the fairy's tone grew solemn. "Remember this," she warned, "magic shines only when the heart is pure. Should pride or greed touch your soul, your stitches will lose their light." The fairy vanished like mist, leaving behind a faint shimmer on Elena's needle. Not long after, a traveling merchant passed through the village. When he saw Elena's embroidery, a river glistening beneath a golden sun, he was astonished. He purchased it immediately and showed it to a nobleman from the capital. The nobleman was equally impressed and summoned Elena to his grand estate. At first, Elena was overjoyed. The nobles praised her skill, gifting her fine silk and golden threads. Her name spread quickly. Everyone desired a piece of her art. Yet, within the tall walls of the noble quarter, Elena began to feel trapped. There were no whispering pines, no wildflowers, no fresh breeze, only marble halls and endless feasts. One night, longing for the forest, she took up her needle and embroidered a small wooden cabin surrounded by tall green trees. As she whispered, "Threadlight, weave the world bright," her work began to glow. When she awoke the next morning, the nobleman told her he had ordered a cabin to be built in the forest, exactly as she had described. For a while, Elena found peace, but fame is a subtle poison. With each banquet, each flattering word, she began to crave admiration more than the quiet joy of creation. Her embroideries, though grander, lost the warmth they once held. The nobleman, displeased with her fading passion, sought new artists. Artha, seeing his daughter's growing pride, went to the nobleman and confessed the truth of her magic, hoping it would awaken her conscience. Furious and humiliated, Elena confronted her father, but deep down she knew he was right. Still, her pride would not let her admit it. One day, the nobleman demanded she embroider an image of all the neighboring nobles kneeling before him, a symbol of his power. Blinded by anger and wounded vanity, Elena obeyed. She completed the work and whispered the fateful words. The next morning, her embroidery had come true. The nobles had indeed knelt, their faces pale with fear. But soon Elena learned the truth. The nobleman's soldiers had kidnapped their children to force their obedience. Families were torn apart. People starved as their wealth was seized. Villages burned in rebellion. Elena was horrified. The once beautiful power of her craft had become a weapon of cruelty. With tears in her eyes, she returned to the forest, calling for the fairy. "Please," she begged, "take away my fame and my magic. Let me make one last embroidery, not for pride, but for peace." The fairy appeared, silent but listening. Elena took out her final cloth and began to sew. Her trembling hands created an image of unity, nobles and villagers standing side by side. Their hands joined beneath the golden sun. Hope and compassion flowed through every thread. When she whispered, "Threadlight, weave the world bright," the embroidery shimmered with golden light. A wave of warmth swept across the land, the fighting stopped, and peace returned. Exhausted but relieved, Elena felt the last trace of magic leave her needle. She returned to her humble village, living quietly with her father. She continued to embroider, not for others' praise, but for the simple joy of creation. Her works, though no longer enchanted, moved everyone who saw them. Each piece carried a warmth that words could not describe, the warmth of a soul that had learned the true meaning of beauty. Elena finally understood. Magic was never in the threads, but in the heart that guided the needle. The story reminds us that true beauty in art and life comes from sincerity, not ambition. When we create, work, or dream with a pure heart, what we create naturally shines and inspires others. But when we chase recognition or power, we lose the very essence that gives meaning to our efforts. Elena's journey shows that success achieved through pride is fleeting, while kindness, humility, and passion are eternal. The magic that changes the world does not come from magic, money, or fame. It comes from the warmth of our hearts and the sincerity of our intentions. Whatever we do, if done with love and compassion, will touch lives in greater ways than any reward or praise.